There's a tendency in this country to broad brush Aboriginal issues or Indigenous issues. And I use Aboriginal with the greatest respect because that's what the Constitution Act says. There's no mention of Indigenous in the Constitution Act. So when you're talking about Aboriginal people in Canada, there are hundreds of Aboriginal groups across the country. There's the three main groups that are divided and explained in the Constitution Act. It's the Inuit, the Métis, and the First Nations people. And so that's three distinct groups of individuals and communities right there. Now, amongst those three broad brush categories, there's as many varieties of communities and people as you can imagine. I mean, they're not all the same, and every Aboriginal person doesn't think the same and want the same things. And why the average Canadian and the federal government talks as if they're all ubiquitous is beyond me. They clearly don't understand the variety, site and situation of these communities. Some are on reserves, some are not. There's a big portion of the Aboriginal population in this country live in cities. The urban component is quite large and getting larger. I mean, you can't just broad brush the solutions and expect everybody to agree with it. So when you look at these people who come from outside of the community and they convince a disaffected group or a dissatisfied group that, oh, all of this development is bad, it's going to hurt your culture. They have seen enough examples in the past where that's been the case. So it's sort of easy to convince. And then a company comes in there and does a bad job, perhaps, of explaining the impacts of their proposal on the community, because maybe they don't have anybody that has worked with Aboriginal folks. Maybe they've hired a contractor who says they have that expertise and don't necessarily have it. That happens a lot. And so you have these people going out and spinning a yarn, telling the community what they think they want to hear. But the Aboriginal folks are a lot smarter than that now. I mean, they always were smarter than that, but they're even more astute about how the game is played amongst the government agencies and the companies. Not every company has the best of intentions. A lot of them are learning, and they're learning that going the other direction is hard. It's not sensible, but they learned the hard way. And there are some big companies who really got beaten up in the press and also in the courts for not doing things properly. They've learned, and they're trying to tell the rest of the industry to do a better job of it. And a lot of companies are, to give them credit.